when Eric did.
Wait a minute. Did I just hear myself say 3 minutes?
Everybody in that arena inhaled at the same time, like, and it was like a vacuum. My ears popped. I've been able and blessed to do a lot of things in my life, and I've had my ups and my downs in my life, and I can probably help somebody who watches the podcast who might have went through what I went through.
It was everything I had ever wanted in my life. Now I was going to start wrestling under Santino Marella. I wanted to make a point to Santino. I wanted to prove that I was completely committed to this.
Santino saw in you what Cornette and Doc saw in me. You had to prove yourself. I had to prove myself. When Dudley's put me through the table, I don't know if you guys know this, the table broke in such a way, the metal bar went through my arm and was sticking out of my arm after I got 3D'd.
Rewind, recap, relive. Woo! That's what the world is watching.
Ladies and gentlemen, with our two guests' facial hair today, we almost have a full beard. My first guest, who's sporting that gorgeous mustache there, he's been making his name known on the Brantford, Ontario scene and beyond for about 10 years now. He's the Brantford Rattlesnake. Please welcome Pretty Ricky Willdy.
Howdy. So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. You're on with an absolute veteran. He has been in the world of wrestling over 20 years and the world beyond. I mean, from American Gladiators to WWF Tag Team Champion, the stylist. Please welcome Rico Constantino.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me on your show. Hats off to you all. And we're going to have a great time today. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Yeah, I love having you and Ricky on together here. Rico, can you tell the audience, what are you coming in from? Because this is an amazing alpha you've got on right now.
Oh, well, for those of you who do not know, I retired from police work and insurance investigator, and I'm out here in Arizona near the Prescott area, and had to be challenged again personally. I haven't been personally challenged since WWE 2005. I buried myself into work being a state investigator and a part-time United States Marshal as a district security officer for the feds. So I didn't have much time to go out there, just work out and work. Came out here to Arizona and I found something called cowboy mounted shooting. And I'm able to win 6 more world championships, because there's 6 levels to it. And they don't give you belts, but they give you something what the Cowboys call a buckle. And I guess that's more important than a belt. So I'm going to try for some buckles. And I'm practicing now. I have a coach, trainer, and was working with my horse and stuff like that. And, you had to carry 2 Western 6 guns. And it's a spectator sport, so you can't fire real lead. So it's a 45 long Colt and packed with black powder like they used in the musket. And they pack it and crimp it. You're allowed 5 bullets per weapon. There's 10 balloons on this course. There's like 60 something patterns. You don't know the course until you get there. And it's timed. Now you'll get penalties if you miss a balloon, a 5-second penalty. If you knock over a barrel during the pattern, get a penalty. Fall off your horse, a penalty. Drop your gun, a penalty. But other than that, it's you and your horse going against time. And you start off, you go by the timer, you shoot 5 balloons, holster that weapon, and as you're riding, draw your other weapon and fire the other 5 balloons. And that's what you do.
If I'm being honest, Rico, from the leopard pants to the double holster, I'm seeing my progression here and I'm loving where I'm heading. This is fantastic.
Oh my God. Always a taste for revenge, like we were saying, Rico, off air. And now you're able to tell those stories, right, and relive them with your podcast, Stylin, with Rico Constantino. Did you take the podcasting easy, would you say?
Well, I love talking to people. I love people. Why would I have been a police officer? You gotta like people and you gotta be genuinely concerned to help them, protect the innocent, take out the bad guys and put them where they belong and help the innocent. And that's how I've been wired my whole life. And then I went to entertainment. Then I wanted to entertain people. First as a real athlete with Gladiators, and I was a stunt man for Universal Studios. I was in the Conan show, and then I was at Six Flags, and I was Michael Keaton Batman. So I did Batman, and then I went on to, bodyguarding and stuff like that. But I've always wanted to help folks.
So podcasting is just another step in that. Yeah, sharing
Yeah.
experience.
Well, like you said earlier, I've done a lot. I've been able and blessed to do a lot of things in my life. And, I not everything was a success. I've had my ups and my downs in my life, failures and stuff like that. And I can probably help somebody who watches the podcast who might have went through what I went through. And I tell them how I got through it, and what I did, and I've had people ask, like in the comment section, would you change anything in your life, the bad things in life? Would you change it? And I said, no. And they said, why? And I said, because how do you think I got to where I'm at? I got through the bad times to see how good the good times are and appreciate the good times. I've worked for everything I've had. I was never given anything, especially with the WWE. I mean, started wrestling, professional wrestling at 38 and a half with Empire Wrestling Federation. And then 8 months later, I get a phone call from WWF at the time, Howard Finkel, says, hey, kid, I'm 38 and a half, kid. You ever want to try out, 10-day tryout? And I said, yeah, sure. So I went up there for 10 days, and Cornette and Tom liked me. They signed me to developmental. And in July 99, I was the first developmental contract to arrive at OVW. And that's the ruthless aggression class. It was me, Orton, Brock, Shelton Benjamin, Randy Orton, John Cena. We were tag team champions.
Legendary class. I mean, you're going down these crazy accolades one by one. I definitely want to get into that OVW class. To bring this back to the beginning for both of you guys, though, Ricky, I know wrestling starts in your family with your great grandmother, right? Can you tell us about that and how much wrestling means to your family?
It's been a sickening obsession our entire lives. My great grandmother was obsessed with it. She's from Kentucky, so the idea of like Southern wrestling is deep in our bloods. It got to the point where my mom would sneak into the Civic Center because my granddad was the janitor there, so she would wait around for like 6 hours to be able to see it and watch the show for free. I had the same problem as my family, but I'm just a little bit more obsessive and won't let things go. So that's why I became the amateur wrestler through high school, university, and took that to battle arts to start wrestling. Rico, I gotta ask this question. I'm never gonna get this opportunity again. Survivor Series 2002, there's a one camera angle where I swear to God, it looks like your sideburn is coming off. You are a fashion template, and I am not trying to insult you in any way, shape, or form, but were the sideburns ever artificial, or was that always 100% legit?
Those were always 100% legit, and they were black like they were, and I still have them.
They look amazing. They look amazing. And that's the only reason I was nervous to ask the question, because I saw you still have them in the camera now. They still look phenomenal. I don't know if it was just the lusciousness or the camera angle, but I remember that as a child, and I've never let that go. So I will take your word for it, 100% truth. Hacksaw Jim Duggan told me he used a fake 2x4 in WCW. So, these things do happen, but I'm taking your word as the gospel.
But if they were ever fake, I would tell you. Because you couldn't assure if they were put on like Hollywood put on with the glue and stuff like that. You saw my matches; they were very physical, and they would have come off. I thought you were going to bring up the 2002. God damn it, Jeff! Where are you?
That I want to talk.
Yes, that's a classic.
I definitely want to talk about that. That's so cool, though. Ricky, that how deep wrestling is in your family. What was your reaction when you actually take that leap then?
I was terrified. It's the weirdest thing. I can so vividly remember like the first first days of wrestling school, just like where everyone was standing, what everyone was wearing. It's so crystallized. And then when things started kind of picking up and I was getting booked 3, 4 times a week, it's funny how quickly that all blurs together and it becomes kind of like one long memory. Whereas those initial days at wrestling school, yeah, it's so crystal clear in my head. And I mean, it was everything I had ever wanted in my life, right? Like I had finished school and I had moved to a new city and now I was going to start wrestling under Santino Marella. So I was expecting it to be a lot goofier than it was, but it was very serious and intense. So I was very glad I had the amateur wrestling background from University of Toronto because I think those guys would have swallowed me up pretty quickly if I didn't.
Yeah,
What weight did you wrestle in high school? What was your weight?
Oh God, I want to say 85 kilograms, but if I'm being honest with you, I'm pretty rough on those numbers. And I was, the fitness wasn't my part. It was the trash talking quickly. That's how I made a name for myself.
Rico, because you did so much before you actually debuted in wrestling, did you grow up a fan?
Oh yeah. I love the golden era, the 80s, and I was a mark for the Ultimate Warrior. When he came out and debuted, I can still remember the match. It's
Yeah.
just, his energy and his charisma and the way he attacked the ring. Oh my gosh. I got to meet him years later in Las Vegas and got to meet him after that when I was at an AIM conference in Phoenix and went to his gym. He let me take a picture with his yellow Intercontinental title belt and we sat and talked. Great guy.
His makeup, his tassels, has any influence on the Rico character as he evolved and began face painting, tasseling, all that kind of stuff?
Well, actually, Adrian Street was kind of the face. I started out, if you remember, fully face covered, but then a couple of wrestlers complained that my glitter was getting into their hair and they were getting blamed for having extramarital affairs. So Vince asked
So
me to
funny.
calm it down. That's a shoot. So I went from the full, from here to here, down to here. I brought it up to the line and the line and then to the eyes, the eyebrows, and stuff like that. So I minimized the theatrical makeup because that's what I
You were going to
used.
say that you were staining other people's gear with the makeup, but the idea of getting in
Yeah,
their hair and causing divorces, that's
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 a wild
hilarious.
reason.
Yeah, I don't want to mention any names, but that was what I was told by Vince himself.
Well,
That's
if
crazy.
a little glitter is what pushed it over the edge, it was probably some other things with those
Yeah,
people.
I was the straw that broke the
Yeah,
camel's
yeah,
back.
exactly. So how do you find yourself onto American Gladiators, which I feel is the first time the world really sees Rico Constantino?
Well, I was working construction at Santa Ana Airport, which is now John Wayne Airport, and I was just a regular laborer. And I got twisted up in some rebar, so I was at home rehabbing my knee, and all of a sudden the show came on, and Gemini popped on the screen and said, "All contenders, are you ready for the ultimate challenge? Join American Gladiators." And I went, "Oh my God, he's talking to me! He's talking to me!" And I went, that's it. And then I started watching old videos of the first season, which was a pilot. And Lucian Anderson was the champion. But I watched all the gladiators. And then they had a 4 city tryout. And
Mhm.
I went to Universal Studios and tried out. And at that time, I didn't know, but they had a gladiator tryout because 2 gladiators, Titan and Malibu, were released. And then we're going to put 2 more gladiators in, Turbo and Thunder. So I figured I don't need to scout them, but Gemini, Laser, and Nitro, I'm scouting them, what they're good at. And I would watch like football tapes and I'd watch the Gladiators, what they were good in, and that's how I went into it. I got picked. But during the tryout, the producer, Aton Keller, because you had to do 25 chin ups in 30 seconds. Everything's pass fail. You had to run a 40-yard dash in under so many seconds. The ladder race, touch a line, then go further, come back, race. One-on-one tug of war, best 2 out of 3. One time you were on Powerball with the ball, offense, and you were defending. And then you did an on-camera interview.
Okay.
And then they picked from that. And there was I think it was 15,000 people that tried out. They 20 men and 20 women.
And you
And that's how I did it. And they even put me in the Gladiator tryout. So they sent me a letter, and the producer said, "Okay, we'll send you a letter and tell you where you're going." And they said, "We want you to be a contender." I said, "Okay." And they gave us 2 days of practice without the Gladiators. They had a Marine sergeant come up from Camp Pendleton, teach us how to joust with those pugil sticks. And then we got to practice the wall and Eliminator,
you
with
flew up
nobody
that
there.
wall
Well, yeah,
so quick. Yeah.
yeah. I was 218 pounds then, 28 years old.
You're doing all that with a busted knee. Like that's the
No, it
crazy
was
part.
just tweaked a little, but I
Okay.
had time to rehab it because the show was that it only takes 2 weeks to film a whole season. It's a 2-hour day inside Universal Studios because they film the fall season and the spring season at the same time to save money. And Universal Studios always had the tour, so one group would go out, another tour bus would come in, and so the audience always filled. But towards after the preliminary quarterfinals, after the quarterfinals, during the semifinals and finals and grand championship, people picked their favorite contender to root for. And my season, it was me, and in the spring season, it was Craig Branham. They called him the Cowboy. So people weren't leaving the audience, and they had trouble, doing the tour thing because people wouldn't leave. There were signs and everything.
Rico's from the crowd. Not surprising. Come on.
But that was real competition. Everybody said, "Oh, that's
Right.
just like wrestling." No, that was shoot. They were playing for pride, and I was playing for 10 grand.
Oh yeah.
Did they just reboot it too? Or are they
I
thinking of
I hear they're
with
trying to,
wrestlers? Yeah.
and Miz is supposed to be one of the
Yes.
commentators. And I went because somebody else brought that up to me on a podcast, and I went, "Well, why didn't they get a hold of me? I could
Yeah.
be maybe not a commentator, but I could be an interviewer who knows gladiators like a champion."
Absolutely. As an analyst,
So
you would be crushing that role. That's meant for him.
I mean, Rico, I saw what you look like in shape a few months ago. You could still be a contestant, in my opinion.
well, thank you.
um,
So where did you find more political problems? Was that in the wrestling world or in the American Gladiators world? Because I feel like Turbo could really be angling for your spot. I get the look from him.
There was no politics. Like I said, it was a 10-hour day. I ate lunch with the gladiators and stuff like that. We were friends. The only person that attempted to take advantage of it was Nitro. One time we were doing Powerball, and I missed the ball, I missed the cone, and he German suplexed me after I didn't have the ball. And I talked to him. I said, "Danny," I said, "whistle to whistle, do what you got to do. You cheat on me again, we're going at it." And that was the end of it. And he played fair for the rest of the season.
well, I want to go, Ricky, to you after that. I want to hear about Kill Ricky, which is, I want you to describe it because it sounds really cool. I watched a few episodes of this recently, preparing for this interview, but essentially it's a platform you've created, right, for wrestlers to get their names out there in a very unique and fun way. Tell us about Kill Ricky and how you created that.
So it's a chaotic talent show is the best way that I can describe it. If you know the show Kill Tony, we've completely stolen the format. If you don't, then this is an original idea and I came up with it. So the idea is that any wrestler can enter. If you're trained, if you've got a green light, whatever the term is, then you're in. You can put your name in the bucket. We draw two at random. They get 1 minute bell to bell to do whatever they want to try and entertain, and then we interview them and we try to find what makes them stars and try to get them booked around the scene. So obviously this is still on the Ontario level, and we're trying our best through the independents, but major independent promotion within Canada, C4, former champions of Kevin Owens and the like, they offered us a spot that we were able to give away. Bruce Thunderstein is the man that won that opportunity. So August 15th, he gets to drive to Ottawa for the first time in his life. He gets to debut on one of the bigger platforms in Canada, and we're very happy that we were able to facilitate that. We were able to make that happen. Quick side note on that, we kind of knew that Bruce was going to be the guy because he's been so entertaining every time we've run an episode of this thing. So when I reached out to C4, I said, we can't work who gets pulled out of the bucket, but we can work who wins. So this is kind of the guy I'm thinking. He showed up, put on the performance of a lifetime. He was on some kind of hovercraft the entire time, on a Segway running his match. It was unbelievable. And then he ends the thing and he tells this story about how, like, a week ago, his brother passed away due to prostate cancer. And we're all just, not a dry eye in the house. The promoter for C4 was there. He gets on the microphone and says, we run this show August 15th specifically for cancer research. We've been doing it for 10 years and raised, umpteen $100,000 for the cause. So Bruce Thunderstein got that. And it was such a weird kismic, there are no coincidences moment when that all happened, because he was already the guy. But then he told that story and it was just tremendous.
Wow. Fantastic. I mean, it's timing. That's what this is. This business is timing.
Yeah,
absolutely. And Bruce is a little bit older, and I don't know if he has his sights set for the WWE fame, but he's a heck of a talent. We're so happy that he's able to get that spotlight on him.
I debuted at 40 years old on TV, so never say never.
Every time that I get panicked about my age, the Boogeyman and Rico are the names that are told that it's not a matter of your age, it's about how physically fit you are. And by looking at your arms, I got to get in the gym. All right.
I mean, it's perfect for what I want to go into next, Rico. I've heard your awesome mantra from your podcast that what your mind can conceive, your heart can achieve. And I think it's a wonderful way to live. You mentioned, so you debuted at 40 years old, but I think you got to OVW, you were 38. Was
and a half.
38 and a half. So was it like that natural athleticism, of course, but that mantra you think that got you that contract with OVW?
Yes, I believe that with that 10-day tryout, doing Killer Kowalski's territory for 2 days after the 8 days of constantly working out with the superstars. Mark Henry was one of them. Nicole Bass was the other. Dr. Tom, working with Dr. Tom, the last Dory Funk dojo. It was just amazing. And they saw more than a 38, because I told them how old it was. And I've said this before, because they brought us all in the cafeteria the first day, and Dory and his wife would interview each person for about 2 or 3 minutes and then go to the next person. Well, I was like fourth or fifth, and Dory came up and said, "Hey, what's your name?" "Okay. How old are you?" And I said 38 and a half. And the two looked at each other and they looked back at me and they go, "Well, how long you been wrestling?" I said, 8 months. They stood up and walked to the next guy.
So what was it, do you think, that like as it went on, how are you impressing them? The heart.
Heart. I was there to get picked. I was there to get signed to a development. And I just, like I said, I put here. So it was my heart. And I learned everything Dr. Tom and Dory in those days. And then when it was time to show it, I did it in Killer Kowalski's territory at 2 armories. And Cornette, well, he didn't know I was 38 and a half. After the second day, he come out screaming. I'm looking at Dr. Tom. I said, "What?" And he's yelling my name. "GD, where is that guy?" I was like, "What did I do? What did I do?" He goes, "I don't know." And then Cornette comes flying out. He goes, "I just heard something. I heard you were 38 and a half. I said, "Yeah." I said, "I didn't lie about it. Everybody knew." He goes, "I thought you were 25. And he stormed away. And I looked at Dr. Tom. I go, "What's that mean?" He goes, "You're probably going to get signed." And you know how calm Dr. Tom is.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to get signed. And then shortly later, Cornette called me and he says he's taken over VW. It's going to be a territory, and he wants me to come out July '99.
Wow.
And I did.
Being around such great minds, especially when you got to OVW, you're so close with like Kenny Bolin, who I know is a friend of yours still, Jim Cornette. What is it like being around those minds, just having gotten into the wrestling business so recently? Were you picking a lot of stuff up?
Oh, yeah. My dad always told me the reason why you got 2 ears and one mouth is you listen twice as much as you talk. So my mouth was shut all the time listening. listening in the locker room, listening and just taking it in and practicing all the time. I even went the extra mile when Nick Dinsmore, Eugene, he taught the local kids on Saturday morning. Well, that was our day off, and I got up and I went and I was watching Nick work, and then Nick had me help train the kids, which teaches you more. When
Yeah.
you start training other people, you start retaining a lot. So I always put myself there. I was always wrestling, always what I could do. Bolin and I became good friends, even when I was a face. And he was the one that said, after I tore my quad off my knee during the title match, I came back and Bolin told Cornette, I want to bring him back as a heel. Cornette flipped and he goes, I'll give you 6 weeks. So we talked about it. I did my spiel for 3 weeks. And then Cornette goes up to Kenny and goes, he's yours. So I got turned heel in 3 weeks after being the top baby.
Yeah. Wow, that's I mean, just being thrown in the deep end there too. Ricky, for you, so you trained with Santino Marella, legend,
Thank
absolute
you.
legend in the industry. You had mentioned that it was more serious so than you thought it was going to be. For what your character is, I feel like it's the perfect person to be trained under. Did you get a lot of character stuff as well?
Like I was trying to be an athlete when I was a kid, but it's just not in my genetics. The reality, and it's not in my work ethic. I want to be clear about that. But the character, the entertainment of wrestling, that's always what really captured me. So the idea of going to Santino Marella's school was like, this is going to be great, and that was not at all. He didn't want to joke around. He wasn't interested in promo class. He wanted people to be he wanted them to train intense. He wanted them to be super athletes. He wanted them to be hard-nosed guys. And I could really appreciate that. And it did put quite an edge on me, and it did really radically change my life. I give Santino so much credit. He was the first person in my life to say, if you fail, it's because you didn't put enough effort in. If you succeed, it's because you worked hard enough. And that was like, yes, that's exactly what I want to hear. No disrespect to my mother, but there was a lot of kind of coddling in the sense of like, if you try your best, that's great. Where Santino was, no, you tried and it wasn't enough. So I do really appreciate that energy. One quick thing just about the OVW tryout and trying to show heart. Again, this is very much on the indie level, and I'm not trying to compare myself, but to get started at Battle Arts, there was a tryout of sorts where you could win a scholarship for 6 months free. And as a young man, that meant a lot to me. So I wanted to make a point to Santino, and I wanted to prove that I was completely committed to this. So as we're doing 500 squats to try and weed out the people who don't really want it, I just locked eyes with Santino, and for the entire duration would not stop staring at him, so that he got it in his head that this kid's a little obsessed with this moment. And yeah, I ended up winning and dominating that competition. So I can really give a lot of credit to Santino in terms of trying to get that determination, trying to get that will of putting the work in, and I'm very grateful for that. But it took me trying to kind of sneak off the little pieces of information in terms of how to create the character and the entertainment, because he's a little bit more guarded on that. He's also an Olympic level judo champion, so like that's what he really hangs his head on, and that's what he wants people to know Battle Arts was about.
Well, see, you did the same thing I did. Like I said, you showed you had heart, and like you staring right. So he wants to invest time. People don't want to invest time into people who are just così comme ça, meds are meds, as the Italians say. You don't want to, your time is worth something. And when you find somebody who has the same passion you have, you don't mind training them. So Santino saw in you what Cornette and Doc saw in me, even though it's not two different levels. It's the same thing. We're all pointed in the same direction. You had to prove yourself. I had to prove myself. So it's not less than me. It's the same as I did. You did the same thing.
I do appreciate that. Now, I would like to
Yeah.
ask this question then, because on an indie level, here's a real trope of wrestling schools where exactly what you're saying, there are a lot of flaky people that show up who don't really want it. But there's a reality of like, you got to keep these businesses afloat. So people want to come in and kind of play wrestler, and they're paying their membership to do so. I'm assuming at OVW, there wasn't a crop of like that, or was the class that Eugene or Nick Dinsmore, sorry, was teaching the local guys, was it kind of like that in '99?
Oh no, no, no. Danny Davis was pure, strictly business, and his core guys, and that's four: Rob Conley, Nick Dinsmore, Flash Flanagan, Doug Basham, Damaja. Danny Holiday. That was his core guys, and I was having feuds with them on the face side and the heel side, and that's where I kept my mouth shut and listened to what they said, and whatever they said went, because Danny actually had a talk with them, and they poured everything Danny poured into them into us. That's why the ruthless aggression era, you had multiple stars, not just one star. Anybody could take card. I mean, I was a mid card guy, because my age was went a little something against me, and I wasn't as big as Brock, Triple H, Batista, and nor was I going to do anything to get that big. So I relied on my entertainment value.
Yeah.
And as a face, as a heel in the OVW level, and when I got to WWE, took me to a whole different level.
Did you
Of that,
find the style of wrestling was like similar between OVW and WWE? I know there's a famous line from William Regal of telling people that you're going to learn how to wrestle and then you're going to come to the WWE and you're going to have to forget all that and it's a different product. Did you find that radical change between OVW and WWE?
Well, old school wrestling, Danny Davis, we did a lot of calling in the ring. The finished product that you see on TV, there's not so much calling it in the ring. Vince is in the gorilla telling you, you could have an 8-minute match planned out and something went wrong during the card or something, and now you're cut down to 5. So the ref is the only thing, I don't know if you do this, but WWE, we work from the end backwards. And it's like, say, we need 2.5 minutes to go to the finish. And if the ref taps you or does something, says, go home, you stop whatever you're doing and you go through that go home phase. In the house shows, a lot different, but on TV, you had to make your mark.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So maybe then, TV, same thing with the OVW television. I was fortunate enough to be part of all 3 territories. In fact, Cornette hung the heavyweight title, all 3 titles on me at the same time. Heartland, Power Pro, and OVW. So I was doing a lot of traveling representing, but that's when I was a face. And then once I got with Cena as a heel, we didn't go anywhere else, but we were in OVW in Louisville.
how was it working with an early John Cena like that?
So it was great, very professional, just like Rick is. He's focused. He knew where he was going to go. There was no doubt in his mind, and the man can talk. I don't have to tell you that.
Right.
The man can cut a promo.
Have you been looking at the stuff he's doing recently on his retirement run now?
No, I've been, when you're taking care of 4 horses, 3 Great Danes, and 15 chickens, and a partridge in a pear tree. Well, let's not forget him.
No, totally. But that's so cool you're able to be with him early on and tag team champion, like you said.
Yeah.
Of that famed 2002 class, here, Shelton Benjamin, Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar, since you were there in OVW, who would you say took to it the best first, would you say, of that class?
Everybody progressed. We were all a team. We weren't against each other. We never competed against each other. We went out and, we were a team, all of us. We were all friends, and we didn't hang out everywhere, but when it was time to come to work, we all helped each other and worked because we all wanted to get called up.
Yeah. And everything.
Yeah. And Danny Davis and Cornette, old school, you're a family, you stick with each other. I remember one time Randy did his match and he goofed or somebody hit the ropes and he fell. He was standing on top rope. He fell and he hit his ribs on the corner of the post. And I was the next match. So they brought him out and I used to be EMT paramedic. So I was out there tending to Randy, trying to help him and stuff. And Cornette yelling at me, "You're on next. Get out there. Get out." I said, "Not till I see he's better." And I stayed out there until the medics came. And then I went and did my match. But it's the kind of atmosphere OVW was.
That's an awesome story. Wow. So it was like a real family environment. And to see what it produced, I mean, it literally produced like the Ruthless Aggression era, which in my opinion is my favorite era of wrestling. It was so good. But Ricky, so you said you were chipping away at Santino, get those character elements. Once you leave training with Santino, when does the Pretty Ricky character start to really take effect, would you say?
So I left Santino School to go on a 6 week tour of northern Canada into the Arctic Circle, northern Manitoba, Northwest Territories, that kind of stuff. And throughout that 6 weeks, like it's six guys locked in a van, and that's kind of all we did. We were in cities that were 24 hours. Cities is a bold term. We were in towns that were 24 hours to local Walmarts. We were driving across frozen lakes. So you bond with those guys real quick, and you have to find something to keep yourself entertained. So essentially, the best way I can put it out is me and a buddy went on to that tour, and he played Bad Boy Joey Janela, and I played RJ City. And then through that, we both just kind of discovered who we actually were, and enough trial and error that we could start kind of putting it onto a screen. So then the back half, the last 3 weeks of that tour was just an everyday Instagram post, making up storylines that we were, getting lost and trapped in the woods and things like that. And by the time we came back to Ontario, everyone kind of knew us, and there was a little intrigue around us. The most surprising thing was when I went out for any shows on the reserves throughout any of those tours, I was automatically the bad guy. As soon as I came out, there were no questions. People hated me. And then I did the exact same thing in Toronto, downtown, and everyone just kind of loved it. I was immediately a baby face. So just kind of some style preferences there.
That's so interesting. Rico, did you ever experience that? Like people loving you somewhere you went versus people hating you other places?
Oh, well, uh, they never really hated me. Even when I was the stylist, the dirty down guy that kept the belts on Billy and Chuck,
Yeah.
I'd come out of the arena. I remember when I debuted in Ottawa, and you know how that arena is. It goes down. Well, it snowed that day, and I cost the Hardy Boys the titles because I interfered in the match and came out of there. Boy, I was getting snowballed from everybody up top. I was running for my rent a car.
That's
But
great.
after a while, people understood, and it was a guy you like to hate character,
Mm.
and I'd stay out at the end of shows, house shows or TV tapings, sign any autograph that anybody came up, answered questions, spoke with the fans, took pictures with them, you know, and they knew by that time they knew wrestling was a work, and they just loved the character. They loved the stylist character and what I brought to the character, how I developed it. And the best compliment I ever got was a fan says, Rico, you want to know why I watch you? I said, why? He goes, because I don't know what you're going to do from week to week. That was the best compliment I ever got because I always change things,
Mhm.
Yeah.
stylist wise. And when I went to the Adrian Street homage, next time I'm riding them like a horse, or I'm pinching their cheek or pinching their booty, or doing something different that just makes them laugh.
I can tell you honestly, as a child in the year 2002, I did dislike you quite a lot. When you were sucking up to Eric Bischoff, me and you had a problem. And when you went to Adrian Street, I got to tell you, I kind of fell in love, just a little bit. So there's a real connection there, Rico.
Yeah, you got to embody the character you're doing. You have to, because if you believe it and you show it, they believe it. That's the art to wrestling entertainment. It tells you right there. You just break it down. Like in the Hollywood movies, they yell cut and they put a stunt man in. In wrestling, they don't yell cut. You're the actor, the character, the stunt man, the everything. You have that whole audience for 6 minutes, 7 minutes, or whatever your match is. And the more entertaining I became as the Adrian Street character, because everybody wanted to be Stone Cold and Rock and all this other stuff, I was the comic relief. So when Charlie Haas and I got together, we found ourselves in semi-main events all the time because not everybody could sit on the edge of their seat for every match and go, okay, okay, okay. And then because we're supposed to build up to the main event. So they threw in a little comic relief right before the main event. So Undertaker took on who? JBL took on Eddie Guerrero, whatever it was. We're ready to get back into, some serious, hard wrestling.
Did you ever have the feeling when you were one of those outlandish characters that you wanted to have one of those kind of hard wrestling matches to was there an instinct of pulling you to try and be that cool guy, or were you confident enough in what you were doing that you knew your role?
I knew my role. I
Yeah.
didn't want a main event. I would have liked to held the Intercontinental title. That was always my favorite title, and I would like to had a shot at that. I wasn't interested in heavyweight titles because I was a support. I was a supporting cast. I came out first on Velocity or Heat, or I came out as the main event, Velocity Heat. Very rarely was I in the center of the card. So I either opened the show or I closed the show. That was enough for me. You know,
Ricky, Ricky, a big part of your character. When do you choose to go full mustache? Curious.
I try to keep the mustache as prim and proper as possible. The reality is that I need to be able to go around society and seem like a reasonable person. So I try to have as much as outlandish a look as possible while still being able to go to the bank and be taken seriously is kind of where I settled on. I had a big goatee when I first left university. I thought that looked really good. I thought it framed my face nicely. And my father-in-law made a comment. He said, with a jaw like yours, I would never wear a beard. And he made that comment once. I shaved off that night, and I've had a mustache since. So trying to highlight that jaw if we can see it on the camera.
Chisel.
All right.
That
reminds me of a little bit of a Rick Rude,
Yeah.
strong jaw.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, it
When I
does.
get told Jake the Snake, it means I'm not looking my best that day. But ravishing Rick Rude, I will take that as a huge compliment.
Yeah, strong jaw.
Rico, when do the sideburns come into play for your career? Is that because you had them when you debuted as the stylist, right?
They were just growing, and I was still doing dark matches before I got called to be called, from the dark matches. I was wrestling Raven. And one night I was a face, next time I was a heel, and I went out with all the superstars, and whatever they were, I was the opposite. And I wrestled Raven one night, and looks at me and he goes, "What do you like being, a heel or a face?" And I said, I like being a heel. He goes, "Well, do something about your face." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You're too pretty. Grow some sideburns or something." And he wanted me to grow the old honky tonk sideburns or the rock sideburns. And I went, "That's already been done." So I went for the Wolverine look. So I came out with those. So my debut, they were just coming in.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even told. See, I barely knew how to wrestle. When I got called up, I was going to be Billy and Chuck's manager. I knew zip about managing. So when I got there in Ontario and I told I was going to be their stylist, I looked at Vince. I said, "Style, what, hairstylist, foot stylist? What kind of stylist?" He goes, "Flesh it out." And he turned around and walked away. And I went, "Oh my God." Oh, then I've got a phone call to Kenny Bull. "How do you manage? How did you do that? How did you do what you did?" And then we're getting ready to go. And I looked at Bill. I said, "Bill, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how to do this. I barely know how to wrestle." He goes, "Take it easy, kid. I'll tell you what to do. I'll take care of you." Thank you. And he did. And then I took Billy's cue. I came out black on black for a while because I didn't invent the stylist character yet. And remember Stevie Richards when he had Right to Censor, the white shirt, black pants and stuff. And then he went to that other group. I can't remember right now, but he wore black on black. And he was with the two bald tag team guys.
I can't
I
think
can't remember that.
Ricky, do you remember the name of that stable?
Chronic?
What?
Was that Chronic?
Oh, Chronic? Oh, I think
Chronic. Did Stevie Richards not come out with Chronic? I want to say that's like SummerSlam 2000. I could be wrong on that.
I don't know what he managed, but I didn't want to come out looking like Stevie,
yeah.
And so a couple weeks in a tanning bed, it hit when I was in that 30-minute tanning bed, one of my days off. I went, "I'm going to be an image consultant from New York. That's going to be the stylist." And from on, I took off. And then I called the Godfather right away because he was retiring. And I said, "Where did you get those outfits?" Because he wore all the Pimp Daddy outfits.
Yeah.
He goes, "On the swap meet off of Vegas Drive." I said, really? I drove over there and I went, I want that. I want the alligator suit. I want the snake skin. I want the tiger stripe. I want this. I want blue glasses. I put blue belly button rings in my ear, blue lenses, red belly button there in my ear, red lenses, the red YMLO shirts, the tight shirts, and
Yeah.
come out with and the sideburns are grown by that time, and
I'm
cut the
so happy
hair.
just I'm so happy to hear that The Godfather was willing to tell you that because I feel like so many guys are really protective of their stuff. That's amazing. Are you willing? Do you have a ballpark of how much money you invested off the hop at that swap meet of like how many outfits, how much money you were willing to invest at that point in your life?
Oh, I just wanted to get the character right. So if I looked and I saw it, I did it. And then when I turned to the Adrian Street character, I took my daughter and she helped me shop for makeup.
It's awesome.
It's so cool, the backstory. It's very Godfather reminiscent too, but at the same
Yeah.
time different, which is why I
Yeah.
love it. It was of its own. As the stylist and image consultant that you were and still are, who were some people back then who were really fashionable in your eyes? Some stars back then on the roster.
Oh, and Michaels, my gosh, his outfits were Ric Flair.
Yeah.
My gosh, stuff like that. But I always didn't want to copy or tear a little off, and I wanted to go my own direction.
Yeah.
The Godfather wore them a certain way and did a certain thing. I
Exactly.
was wearing them and going, yeah, this you need to be looking like me, because I am the stylist, and I took that persona on. So whatever I wore, and then I started reeling, and then I had to go, because those were hard. They were pleather and nylon stuff, so you couldn't really move in them. So then I started having the tights made, pants, tiger stripe pants, snakeskin pants. I had brand new set of tights in 2002 when Dudley's put me through the table. I don't know if you guys know this. The table broke in such a way, um, the metal bar went through my arm and was sticking out of my arm after I got 3D'd.
I've never
Yeah,
heard that story. That was on
yeah.
TV.
Brand new.
That was 2002 when I yelled at Jeff to get over here because he knocked me off the rope. Well, that's when Devon came back from being the preacher with Batista, and they reunited the Dudley Boys, and they 3D'd me because it was just Bubba and I in the ring. Or yeah, Bubba and I, and Devon came out because there was no disqualifications, and they 3D'd me, and that pole went through my arm, and there was blood coming out on the mat, and I was just laying there because the referee came up and goes, "We're commercial, we got to go." And I sit up and I go, "What am I going to do with this?" And he's just looking at it. So I had to take the pole and pull it out. So I pulled it out, and the referee goes and he tries to tuck my arm in. I said, "These are $100 snakeskin pants. What are you doing? What are you doing? Keep it out here." So we go to the back, and it's at the end of the DVD, and it's somewhere on YouTube. They're interviewing me for the match while the doctor is sewing my arm up. It's
Oh
it's
my
on
God.
YouTube somewhere.
That
You
might
get
be
hold of this.
one of the craziest stories I've ever heard on this show. That's crazy. I
Such an iconic match. That's such an
Yeah.
iconic moment, and to not know that story behind it, that's incredible. Like if there's a moment that's going viral, that's the clip. That's
Oh,
unbelievable.
100%. That's going up. I mean, it feels less to ask about this moment from the match then, but what ended up happening with Jeff with you screaming to him?
Well, I was always not really nervous, and I don't know if you talk to other wrestlers. I I have ADD, and I got like a splash autism where I have to stem. Some people tap their fingers, tap their feet, do little finger twirlers. Me, I sit in a chair and I rock back and forth, and I just go over the match, or I still do it to this day. Just thinking about something, or if I'm trying to accomplish something, that's how I stem myself. Well, uh, we're doing the match, and I didn't think of this. And Jeff just did that big swanton off the second floor onto Rosie that was on the table.
Okay.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he just did it, and then Jamal and I beat up Bubba, put him on the table. I'm supposed to moonsault on him, but Jeff was supposed to knock me off the ropes, straddle it. Well, we did ours maybe too quick, or Jeff might have got dazed on that move. Looking back, I think he got dazed, because that was an extreme move. And so I'm over there getting up, and then I don't see Jeff, so I act like I'm falling. I've never lost my balance on a moonsault in any match. So here I am acting like I'm losing my balance and I can't get the Bubba. Well, I did not know there's a microphone in each pole. I did not know that. So as I'm getting up again, I yell, GD Jeff, get over here. And that went over the pay-per-view. So that's how that got famous. And then he finally got over there, shook the rope, and I straddled myself. Bubba came off and stuff like that.
And then it goes through your arm. That's when we
And
started.
then I got 3D pop.
That's insane. Oh my God. Okay, because I remember that moment I remember that as I was growing up. Like that was one that always got played, that went viral. That, damn it, Jeff, get over
Yeah.
here. Well, Ricky, to go back to that gear, we have to circle back because your gear, I feel you take a lot of pride in too, and you don't always see that on an indie level, I feel. Take us through how you're going about getting your gear, and maybe if you're going to head to that Vegas swap meet anytime soon.
So honest to God, I read Daniel Bryan's book when I was just starting out as a professional wrestler, and he said, I want to say 90% of getting over as a wrestler was your gear, your entrance, and your music. So I really took that to heart, and I figured, I can only put so many hours in the gym. I was genuinely eating as much chicken as I possibly could stomach. It was a crazy time for me because I am not used to that. But as I was doing that, I invested in some quality gear. I was going around in like legitimate Speedos when I was getting started, and just like, oh, you look terrible. It's little things. If any young wrestlers are listening, people go for volleyball knee pads and it looks terrible. It just looks like a volleyball knee pad. So invest the money in an AMA, and even if you don't get a cover, it looks more professional. I bought legitimate boots. I made sure I got high quality gear. So shout out to Lisa in Oshawa, Ontario, Seductions. She genuinely makes the best gear in all of Canada. She's also very busy because of that. So I try to. That said, I've also had a closet full of ridiculous jackets my entire life. So having kind of an eccentric wardrobe was just natural. And the more that I get to pull those things out and wear those on shows, I do love it. My grandfather got me a Finnish skiing suit because it was given to him when he was a young man and never wore it. It was yellow and had parrots all over it. He gave it to me because no one else in his life would ever wear it. And I was able to use that multiple times. I was like somebody's coach or trainer for some show, and I got to wear that. So tying all those little pieces together, it's if it was just a character, I wouldn't be any good at it. But I do genuinely love being this guy, and I dress like that just kind of every day. So finding those clothes was a real treat for me. That said, Vegas swap meet, that's the kind of stuff I've only heard about in rap music. So like I am pumped up about the idea and getting down to Vegas just to check out the wild styles of clothes I'm way into.
Oh yeah. It is. What you said is couldn't be truer. It's not the Speedos unless you look like Tony Atlas, you know. It it's how you're your outfit. Like I said, both characters for me was my outfits.
Yeah.
I came up with different outfits. Sometimes I wore a shirt, sometimes I didn't. Stylist never wore a shirt, but the Adrian Street, had the big vent shirts with a little sash through it, little peekaboo net in the butt, look like pockets, uh, stuff like that.
Did you keep any of that gear? Is that still stored away in the
I
house
have
somewhere?
everything I ever wore except the black
Amazing.
alligator suit. I have everything.
Amazing.
Where's the black
That's awesome.
alligator suit?
I gave it to Kenny Boland's son, Christopher, as a gift.
That's sweet.
That was my first, the blue shirt and the blue glasses with that black alligator suit and pants. But I gave him the jacket and the pants.
Well,
Rico merchandise. Do you got any of that stored around the house, or is that off?
The what?
Rico merchandise. Any action figures? Any of that kind of stuff?
I kept one stylist action figure and one Adrian Street figure, and the photographs. I have a bunch of the WWE magazines packed away somewhere, because they had Rico's runway in it,
Those two action figures are also in my collection to this day. So I'm very glad to hear we share that.
That is awesome. I definitely have that Adrian Street one too. That
Yeah.
Jack specific face pair one.
Charlie Haas, fantastic figure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Speaking of your tag teams, Rico, the first time you won gold, ironically, is against Billy and Chuck with Rikishi.
Yep.
You went on to create some incredibly entertaining moments with Rikishi. What was it like winning the tag belts with him, though?
Oh, I mean, I to wear gold. I mean, that was my goal to wear gold. And the way they spun it, because Vince was against Rikishi, and I was the surprise team partner, and we were supposed to beat down Rikishi, and I end up getting super kicked onto Chuck, and now we're the titles. And in that character, I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and then I go get the belt, and then I'm hugging the belt, and yeah, then Billy and Chuck go, "When are you going to get our titles back?" So we worked that for a little while, and then they finally regained them because I hit Rikishi in the head with the belt from behind, and I was trying to sabotage him. But we always came out to separate ring entrance music.
Yep.
We never came out together. You know, my first or him first, but it was always Kishi and I coming out different.
So you looked excited to take it. What was it like getting hit with the Stinkface?
Oh man, I when I became the Adrian Street Fit character, I told them to do it because Scotty and Rikishi were champions. And in fact, remember that match? I was trying to whip him and he whips me and I do a sunset flip and he slaps his butt to sit on me. And I reach up and slap his butt. And he gets the face like, oh my God. And he texting Scotty too hotty. The audience laughed. Taz was cracking up. Just, get Rico a glass of wine, after he stink faced me. But that was he was the first wrestler to ever get a hold of me when I debuted. Nobody could get me. I was spin kicking people, ruining matches. And Rikishi was the first one to get me, squish me, and stink face me. And the audience in that building went bananas because somebody finally got a hold of me.
Wow.
Gave me what was coming. But Rikishi had two stink faces. If he liked you, you got the small of his back. He sat down a little further. If he didn't like you, you might get the chocolate starfish.
Brutal. That is brutal. Oh my God. That match always goes viral, by the way, that one that you just mentioned where you sunset flip and you slap his butt back. You did the Rhea Ripley pin before she did it. I saw in that match where you stack them up and you kind of
Which one?
The pin that you do, who was Rikishi's partner in that match?
Scotty too hotty?
Yeah, Scotty. I think you stack him up. Like you put his legs kind of over his head and you crawl up and pin him like that.
Oh yeah. The other one move somebody stole me is when I grabbed somebody by the chin and did the double knee breaker to the back. Carlito stole that one.
Oh, the backbreaker?
Yeah, I started doing that before Carlito was even in WWE. Go back to the matches on you.
Gem there because Carlito gets a lot of credit for that move being invented. That's breaking news right there.
Yeah, I'm the one that did it. I had that finisher. I had the sideburn stunner. I had the spin kick, and then when I was the Adrian Street character, I did the moonsault, but I didn't call it the moonsault. Bill DeMott named it for me. It was called the high hard one.
You had
one of not.
You really did have one of the most unique movesets of the time because you had martial arts, you had power moves, you had the moonsault, high flying. It was great. Mixed in with the gear always being different. Like you're right, nobody ever knew what was coming from you. No, great.
What? So tell me, Rick, your character. What is it? Anything like mine or?
I would say I've probably stolen a tremendous amount from you. When I started doing everything, people were telling me that I was stealing from Adrian Street, but I was really stealing from Goldust and you. So that's just the reality of it, but it kind of, all flows through. So it's Pretty Ricky Willdy. I got started basically as the big smoocher. So there are rules in wrestling, obviously. I can't hit anyone in the groin, but I'll do anything to win, and kissing is not illegal. So I would do that to stun people. I would get my victories. It's evolved over the years because I've been doing this a lot longer than I'd like to admit. And now I just kind of, a bit of a wackier person, and kind of anything I can do. Confetti shows up a lot in my matches. The best way I can describe it as a talk show host with a coffee addiction is probably the most synthetic way to get that across there of what I'm trying to do.
Well, for me to you, and I'm saying this on this show, whatever you can take, go ahead. You got my permission.
Thank you so much.
And what do they say? Imitation is the best form of flattery.
Absolutely.
So if you could think of something and make it your own, and whether it comes from me or Goldust, you got my permission. Go take it and run with it and have fun. Because
Thank you so much. I did recently get a black eye, and it came in so perfectly that it just looked like I was wearing purple eyeshadow. And I got so many compliments from it that I really started thinking, maybe start wearing a little makeup. So I can see these progressions coming. It's all one step as we keep getting towards that thing.
Yeah. Well, you can see when I first started with Jackie Gata, it was just a little eyeshadow, little gold fake necklace and stuff, very light on the makeup. And then I just said, that's it. I'm on overdrive. And I put it in overdrive. And then that's when the theatrical makeup came in. The singlet, the full body singlets and stuff like that. And when I was a heel, I chose the dark colors. And, I talked to Adrian before I even did the character and gave me his permission. And he had a wrestling uniform company called Skull Crushers. So for that whole next year, I bought all my outfits from Adrian to thank him for letting me plagiarize his character.
That's amazing. Did you have a lot of direction at the time? Were they telling you things like different bodysuits, more colors? You could just do whatever you wanted?
I was not even in Vince's eyes. I got no help with the stylist and no help with the Adrian Street. I did ask Vince, I said, how far do you want me to take this? And he goes, strap a rocket to your ass and I'll tell you when to stop. I said, okay. But I did also tell him when I was a stylist with Billy and Chuck and when I did the Adrian, as long as we do not offend this lifestyle or embarrass anybody who lives this lifestyle, I will go. And one time in the Raw and Patty's match with Jackie Gata and Trish Stratus, they wanted me to come out like when Piper was fighting Goldust, when they stripped the suit off, he was wearing a bustier and garters and all that. They wanted me to escort Jackie down to the ring in a garter belt and bustier and all that stuff. I said, oh, so you're trying to kill the character? Yeah. No, we think it's funny. It's not funny. I do that. You now know that I'm a cross-dresser. You just take all the mystique out of the character. Well, what do you suggest? I said, okay, here we go. So what I told him is I said, let's go out to the store. So I bought a pair of black pants. I had the seamstress Velcro them together, and I had her make me a pink sparkly thong. So I tried to interfere in the match to get Trish, so I hung myself over the rope. She bounced me in the ring, so I take a back bump and I get up and I bend towards the ropes. She strips my pants off, and there I am wearing a pink thong. At first I get embarrassed and I went, wait a minute, everybody needs to see this. And I start shaking. This is in Salt Lake City, Utah, right before Thanksgiving. JR and the King were announcing it, and they did perfect. And that's the way it turned out. And that was a lot more entertaining than the bustier garter belts, high heels.
In the same vein, my character is often misinterpreted by people. It's not their whole life, and I understand that. But the idea of it being like playing on homosexual themes, and it's like that's not even what I was going for. In my head, it's like I'm kind of a gross guy, so the idea that I'm sticking my tongue down your throat unexpectedly, that's the unpleasantness. That's the problem right there, where people boil it down to something that it's not, and it sounds pretty similar to the idea of you wearing a garter hose. It's that's not the essence here. We have a more nuanced character.
Yeah, it's a nuanced character, and you got to keep reminding people about that because I had the announcers, Demott, Snow, May, Coach, Taz, all those people would say, Rico's doing this to get in their mind. Because I would play around in the beginning of the match, and then as the match went on, the martial arts came out. The plainness was over. They cheated, they kicked me, they were raking my face, choking me, and then all of a sudden, this alleged homosexual kicks your butt, really
Absolutely.
kicks it, so it was sort of a playfulness at the beginning, you
Mhm.
know, and very rarely did I use it, maybe a couple times in the comeback, but it was, when I was with Charlie,
Yeah.
just to
Mhm.
get a pop.
I
So
also consider like what a progressive character for 2004, 2005. The idea that you're being presented as what is his sexuality, and ultimately you're kicking ass and hanging out with some pretty hot chicks. So like there was a lot going on in that moment.
yeah, I used to ride with the divas, Ivory, Gail Kim, all of them. We got a navigator because girls are neat and they're always on time and they don't need to go to bars. And I'd come out at the arena, Rico's gay, Rico's gay, and all of a sudden I get out of the car with five divas. Gay, huh?
Yeah.
I'd look
In that
around.
snakeskin suit and everything, I imagine just looking like $1 million. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
and like I said, so go ahead.
I was going to say
I was gonna say,
before we wind it down, I do want to ask you about one more time in your career, Rico, with one of the most underrated tag teams I think that's ever existed, 3 Minute Warning. I loved them so much, and you were able to get in there with them so early on. What was it like being in there with 3 Minute Warning, and how did it even come about? You getting teamed up with them?
Well, what happened was we did the wedding. Remember the wedding
Yep.
and how that went? And I switched over to Raw. Well, Billy wanted to go solo and he wanted to be Mr. Ass. And then so they were going to disband Billy, Chuck, and myself. So they wanted me to get the same heat I got for Billy and Chuck to get it for 3 Minute Warning. So that's why that went that way. And Billy got his Mr. Ass trunks and stuff like that. And then the Undertaker comes back as the American badass. So guess what got scrubbed?
that's so funny.
He became the one Billy Gunn,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
Mr. Ass, because Undertaker came back as the American badass. And then I went over and for doing what I think Vince gave me, I did a great job during the wedding, because that was 5 pages I had to memorize. And every time I would say certain things, it would set a cue off. And boy, was I nervous. That was the largest promo I had ever done to that point.
I mean,
And
that's one of the most
so,
infamous, best scenes in WWE history, I feel, was that wedding.
well, if that would have been on Raw, that'd have been the best kayfabe ever next to Hogan with the two referees.
Mm.
Yeah, because the dirt sheets got it Tuesday, and when it aired Thursday, everybody already knew. Because that's when SmackDown was taped on Tuesday, shown on Thursdays. But when Eric did, wait a minute, did I hear myself say 3 minutes? Everybody in that arena inhaled at the same time, like, and it was like a vacuum. My ears popped. It was kayfabe, and they kayfabed all the boys. Nobody knew that was Eric the whole day. Vince brought him to the arena in his limousine in character, and Vince catered to him all day. In catering, brought him a dish, introduced him to everybody, and it's Bischoff meeting everybody. Oh, hello, Michael, nice to meet you. Kayfabed all the boys. The only people who knew it was Bischoff was the people in that segment.
Just incredible. At the time, I didn't have access to the internet. I can tell you, I was also gasping. That's a true moment of history.
Yeah, it was good. And for a reward, Vince let me go over on Rick, our first match on Raw.
Yeah.
I saw Rick in Vegas at the WrestleMania, and I went up to say hello to him. I said, Mr. Flair, it's good to see you. He goes, Rico, I had to do a job for this guy. And he told his whole people, I had to do an effing job for this guy. And I said, sir, I know you had to, and I appreciate it. It's the highlight of my career. but he took pictures with me and he was smiling and he was really nice. He didn't, he just gave me the the Iggy right off the bat.
We just saw 3 Minute Warning appear in WWE, the 2K series, the video game, which I thought was awesome. Were we ever close to seeing Rico appear with them? Were you ever going to be in the game or no?
No, I came out, I'm on 4, but as the stylist. What do you think I came out as Billy and Chuck?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have.
They were put in that newest video game, and I feel like they showed a lot of footage, and I saw like Rico in it. I forget if your face was like blurred out or not in the video game, but your character isn't in there, and I would love to see Rico appear in a WWE game again.
I don't play video games, but I saw this kid in the local mall in Vegas playing me on a video game. I was watching it outside the store, and he was kicking Kane's butt. And I'm looking at this kid, and I still have the sideburns, the long hair, because I was the Adrian Street character. And I was just out shopping. And then people were looking at me, and it's this kid. So a crowd gathered. And this kid was better with his thumbs than I was in real life. And he was playing me. And then he won. And then he noticed people behind him, and he turned around and went, and I gave him a thumbs up and walked away. So yeah,
he saved that kid's life. That's a memory he will have for his entire life.
100%.
So did I. I remember it.
Fair enough.
I want to thank you guys both so much for that. I mean, this has been so enjoyable, so many laughs. Ricky, it's been awesome hearing your journey so far. What are some future goals you've got, whether short-term or long-term, that are on your radar?
This October, I'm running for mayor of Brantford. I'm going to try to take that over. We're also going to try to get Brantford wrestling as big as we can throughout here. It's hard to say because, as much of an indie career as I've had, I've been able to work with multiple big companies only for one day, and I've been quite happy with that. So if I could get to TNA, honestly, is like I've been to Impact, but I haven't been able to work on TNA. So I would like to check that box off. That's still one for me. And then I've been able to work Raw and SmackDown again for one day apiece. But trying to get to a pay-per-view is kind of my next big one. So being able to go to the Air Canada Center was probably the big, I've actually done something here for a young boy from Brantford. But yeah, trying to get to TNA instead of Impact, trying to get to a pay-per-view and the mayoral race this October in Brantford. If you're a voter, please, we would love that support. All right.
Got mine, but my vote counts. But
Absolutely.
I am half Canadian. Yeah, my mother's born in Vancouver, BC.
Counts then. Yeah, Rico's vote counts for me. We'll make
Got
that
half
happen.
of Rico's vote. Yeah, that's great. Oh my god.
Oh, which half? This half.
The holsters. Yeah.
Okay, the one with the holsters. That'll ensure an extra vote. Well, thank you, Jonah.
Yeah.
Ricky, pleasure talking with you. It's been a great time. Great time for me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
I was going to say, to finish off, Rico, any goals we should look out for? Obviously, the horseback, the shooting, right? Mountain horseback riding, but
Cowboy mounted shooting. And I want to leave everybody with my mantra: what your mind can conceive, your heart can achieve. And that goes for everybody. I am nobody special.
there's no better way to end that.
Agree. You are very special. I want to be very clear about that.
Rewind, recap, relive. Woo! That's what the world is watching.